So, good morning. Now, in our previous lesson, we had a discussion about 3D objects, and in today's lesson, I would like us to have a look at camera model and camera control. This is an interesting topic, and we have been progressing with this discussion. I think so far so good. It is my belief that lesson 1, 2, and 3 is well covered and well understood. These lessons are critical. In fact, you cannot build on the others before you understand on the first 3 lessons. The fourth lesson is also important for curves, because it's from curves where we then learn about transformations. Remember, this is where we also discussed about the polygon soups and the meshes. Then the transformations, which I think from the previous lesson, you can remember what sort of it was all about. But generally speaking, we had looked at 3D objects in the previous lesson, and we discussed about we introduced ourselves to concepts such as surface representations, planes, surface tangents and normals, parametric surfaces, 3D affine transformations, spherical coordinates, nonlinear transformation, and represented triangle meshes, and how we go about generating those triangle meshes. This was at a conceptual level. It would be of our interest of knowing how these 3D objects take effect. And of course, much of the computer graphics that is commercialized in the form of, let's say, animated videos, some of which are very popular, especially with children. We have examples of Moana, we have examples of, even some of them are real, well sold of movies like The Lion King. These commercializations of computer graphics takes the form of 3D objects. But that's not just the thing that happens. 3D objects, we know they have the third coordinate, the Z coordinate. If we can talk of it from a matrix point of view, or vectors point of view, or even from the Cartesian plane point of view. So the importance of these 3D objects cannot be without the ability of us to manipulate these 3D objects and provide effects that could be real life effects. For instance, we are talking of lighting effects, we are talking of camera positioning, we are talking of, how do you see these objects? What determines, and this is which now brings us to the other topics. As you can see, we have topics such as camera models and camera control, visibility, lighting, reflections, and shading, and of course after that we also discuss texture mapping and ray tracing. Today I want us to look at camera models and camera control. Camera models and camera control, and for us to avoid the confusion that will come in, because of course when you hear about cameras, our first thought is about the cameras that we have on our mobile phones, the cameras that we have on our, the cameras that we buy as separate units and make use of them to take photos, the ones which are used in the media. I want us to shift from that thinking now. It's true those are cameras. We are talking of cameras of a similar nature. I want us to take ourselves inside the animated movie. Take yourself inside Lion King. Take yourself inside Moana. Take yourself inside one of those cartoons that you know about. Ask yourself, this cartoon has not been made using a camera. These objects are not living. It is not that somebody shot a video of those cartoons put somewhere. How comes it has the same effect? There has to be something that is mimicking a camera. And this is the camera we are talking about. This is the camera we are discussing in this lesson 7. It's called a virtual camera. But for us to enhance understanding, we can draw parallels with what we know of our cameras that are, that are there in our phones or tablets, or those ones that we buy as separate units. The same effect of the real life camera needs to be there for the animated movies, or what we call the 3D objects, within that animated movie, so that we place the camera at the point of view which you want our clients who are going to be watching these animated movies to see, or animated objects to see. That is the idea. And because of course this is just like another excuse me, just like in other units in computer science. By the time you're in 4th year, you're dealing with recent topics. Computer graphics is not very old, neither is it too recent. So there is still some sort of research going on computer graphics. And much of it contributing even to the way screens are designed, screens that we use for TVs, for and uh, uh, and for other devices as output of video or graphics output. Now, having said that, I just want to emphasize on the fact that this is not very old field also, because we are having some research going on. And as you can see here, the bit that I was trying to emphasize, recent progress in modeling, animation, and rendering means that rich, high-fidelity virtual worlds are found in many interactive graphics applications. You've seen, we apply graphics in the videos I've talked about, in advertisements. I mean, locally you have seen adverts that are run using, like we know about Bogwa and Fiber. I mean, these is purely computer graphics. There is no real Bogwa who is in Fiber. However, the viewer's experience a 3D world is dependent on the nature of virtual cinematography, and this is where our cameras are coming in. Virtual cinematography, in particular the camera position, orientation, and motion. These ones have to be mimicked. What happens in the real world has to be seen in this virtual cinematography in terms of camera position, orientation, and motion. That is in relation to the elements of the scene and the action. What you are calling these elements of the scene and the action are what you are calling the 3D objects. That is why you had to cover 3D objects before we came to and the camera control, of course, becomes an issue now. This virtual camera control, virtual cinematography, camera control becomes an issue in it. Camera control encompasses viewpoint computation, motion planning, and editing. So these things have to be done by this virtual cinematography. We present a range of computer graphics applications and draw on insight from cinematographic practice in identifying their different requirements with regard to camera control. The nature of camera control problems varies depending on these requirements, which range from augmented manual control, semi-automatic in interactive applications, to fully automated approaches. Now, of course, we are not here to study this paper, but just this paper was written in 2008, so it's not that current. There are more papers that are more current about computer graphics and related virtual cinematography. And if you're interested, you can go searching for them. But at our level now, we are not doing that level of research. We reserve that for master's level. So we go into discussing the conceptual level, so that now, with that understanding, with that background understanding, we can appreciate the fact that we are not talking about cameras, the real world cameras we know about, but it's the same cameras that are now mimicked within the virtual cinematography environment. So their movement, and how now they're used to bring out that effect and create the video. So in this lesson, we are going to discuss, it's a brief discussion about that. Five pages is really not much. The concept is the most important. So I hope that having grasped that background, you can now appreciate what we are content in this as we discuss camera models and camera control. So we have two main camera models which we used. It's not the field is still advancing, but this one provides us with the basics so that you can start appreciate thin lens cameras and pinhole camera. Most modern cameras use a lens to focus light onto the viewplane, that is the sensory surface, and this is done so that one can capture enough light in a sufficiently short period of time that the objects do not move appreciably, and the image is bright enough to show significant detail over a wide range of intensities and contrast. We do understand that's the nature of movies. The reason why it looks realized is because the change in the intensity and contrast, as the location changes, as the lighting effects changes, is captured in real terms. Lens models can be quite complex, especially for compound lenses found in those cameras. Here we consider perhaps the simplest case, known widely as the thin lens model. In the thin lens model, rays of light emitted from a point travel along paths through the lens, converging at a point behind the lens. That is important and is obvious for us to understand that for virtual cinematography. The key quantity governing this behavior is called the focal length of the lens. The focal length, identified as absolute f, can be defined, remember, this is borrowed from mathematics, absolute f, can be defined as distance behind the lens to which rays from an infinitely distant source converge in focus. Distance behind the lens, this distance here. behind the lens to which rays from an infinite distance source converge in focus. So the pinhole camera model is the other camera model that you're going to be having a look at, and is an idealization of the thin lens as aperture shrinks to zero. Light from a point travels along a single straight path through a pinhole. A single straight path through a pinhole. This is a pinhole, and then we have the viewing plane here. Onto the viewing plane, the object is imaged upside down on the image plane. I don't know why it has to be upside down, but in real life it is upside down. We use a right-handed coordinate system for the camera, with the x-axis as the horizontal direction and the y-axis as the vertical direction. That serves for description purposes. This means that the optical axis, that is the gaze direction, is the negative z-axis. Yes, this gaze direction is the negative x-axis, this one. For the remainder of these notes, of course, we consider this camera model, as it is somewhat easier to think about. It is consistent with the model that is used in OpenGL. That's why we need to consider this. Just some historical background of the various cameras. We come to appreciate that the fact that this is somewhere in Europe, preferably Rome, and so on and so forth. Anyway, that's history, and we can learn more about the origin of these cameras and the dark rooms. I think some of us may have seen these dark rooms. Some secondary schools had dark rooms for illustration purposes in the physics lab. Now, camera projections. A 3D projection or graphical projection map points in 3 dimensions onto a 2-dimensional plane, as graphics are usually displayed on 2-dimensional media such as paper and computer monitors. These projections are widely used, especially in engineering, drawing, drafting, and computer graphics. We are aware of that. Projections may be calculated mathematically or by various geometrical or optical techniques. They are achieved by the use of imagery projectors. The projected mental image becomes the technician's vision of the desired finished picture. Methods provide a uniform imaging procedure among people trained in technical graphics, that is mechanical drawing, computer-aided design. We talk of remote sensing and punch sharpening. By following a method, the technician may produce the envisioned picture on a planar surface such as drawing paper. There are 2 graphical projections categories, each with its own method. We have the parallel projection and perspective projection. One can be explained in terms of the other. For a reason that we are going to appreciate, I'm going to start with the perspective projection. The perspective projection is a linear projection where 3-dimensional objects are projected on a picture plane. This has the effect that distant objects appear smaller than nearer objects. It is obvious, that's how we produce 3D actually. The distant objects appear smaller than nearer objects. It also means that lines which are parallel in nature, that is, meet at the point at infinity, appear to intersect in the projected image. And we call it the perspective projection. We call it the vanishing point. If you can remember your art and craft, for those who did art and craft in primary school, we had that vanishing point where these 2 lines which are parallel, our eyes somehow show them as though they are converging at a single point. Now, photographic lenses and the human eye work in the same way. Therefore, perspective projection looks most realistic. What about parallel projection? Parallel projection corresponds to a perspective projection with hypothetical viewpoint. That is, one where the camera lies an infinite distance away from the object and has an infinite focal length or zoom. In parallel projection, the lines of sight from the object to the projection plane are parallel to each other. Thus, the lines that are parallel in 3-dimensional space remain parallel in the 2-dimensional projected image. Parallel projection also corresponds to a perspective projection with an infinite focal length, that is the distance from the camera lens and focal point or zoom. So I think there is no this vanishing point issue. That's why you're talking of the perspective projection, which looks more realistic. Now, perspective projection is usually categorized into 1-point, 2-point, or 3-point perspective, depending on the orientation of the projection plane towards the axis of the depicted object. You note that graphical projection methods rely on duality between lines and points, where 2 straight lines determine a point, while 2 points determine a straight line. The orthogonal means perpendicular. The orthogonal projection of the eye point onto the picture plane is called the principal vanishing point. And we have two relevant points of a line, which are its intersection with the picture plane and its vanishing point, which is found at the intersection between the parallel lines from the eye point and the picture plane. The principal vanishing point is the vanishing point of all horizontal lines perpendicular to the picture plane. That we knew even from ArtCraft, the way we used to draw. We can tell that. For instance, when you are projecting a triangle, let's review the steps to project a triangle from an object's space to the image plane. So a triangle is given as 3 vertices in an object-based coordinate frame, P1, P2, P3. These are the points, P1, P2, and P3. We transform toward coordinate based on the object's transformation. So this transformation produces P1, P2, and P3. Of course, this transformation, is basically an addition when it comes to matrix, from a matrix point of view. We transform from world to camera coordinates, world to camera coordinates. Now these are the camera coordinates, and we transform these world coordinates to camera coordinates. And what we have now, homogeneous perspective transformation. You can remember this, a 4x4 matrix. This is common in 3D. And of course now we divide by the last component. We cannot dwell on this so much because we had a look at it in the previous lessons, but this is what eventually we are trying to get to. The triangle is normalized in normalized device coordinates after perspective division. So we have the triangle now, of course, fitting within the camera view. So camera projections in OpenGL, how do we implement them? We use a number of functions. So the fact thing is that we in OpenGL's model view matrix is used to transform a point from object or world space to camera space. In addition to this, when you're talking about Open Graphic Library, remember these objects like the triangle you've just seen above exist in 2D form and can still be presented in 3D. But the space within which it exists is what you're calling the graphic space, and you need to bring it world, from object. We need to bring it from the object to the world space, which is basically 3D, to camera space, so that it can be viewed as though a camera is taking a photo of it or a video of it. In addition to this, a projection matrix is provided to perform the homogeneous perspective transformation from camera coordinates to clip coordinates before performing perspective division. So after selecting the projection matrix, the GL frustum function is used to specify a viewing volume, assuming the camera is at the origin. So we of course start now making use of the function GL frustum to specify the viewing volume, and then GL matrix model to specify the projection model, load the GL load identity, and of course the GL frustum takes the left, right, bottom, top, near, and far parameters. These ones are used to create the perspective effect near and far, so that you can see it in 3D form. For orthographic projections, we use GL ortho instead. So in other words, we replace GL frustum with GL ortho. The graphics library utility, the graphic library utility, the GLU utility library, provides a function to simplify specifying a perspective projection viewing frustum, which is of course what you can see here: near, far, field of view, aspect ratio, and then of course the function. The field of view is specified in degrees about the x-axis, so it gives a vertical visible angle. The aspect ratio should always be this aspect ratio should always be the should be the viewpoint width over this height to determine the horizontal field of view. This part to do with camera control, I will encourage you to go through this and find more. It will guide you into more, like in this question: discuss each of the following projections: orthographic, multi-view, axonometric, isometric, diametric, trimetric, and oblique. and also as you discuss the advantage and disadvantage of the thin lenses and pinhole camera. The main idea of this lesson is to introduce you to the idea of the fact that when you're talking about camera models and camera control, in this topic we are bringing ourselves from the physical world, which we know of the camera, the lenses and so on, into the virtual world where we have virtual cinematography and how these cameras now are able to mimic. And you can see that basically, in putting it in a very simple way, that this virtual cinematography involves cameras that apply to perspectives. We have seen the parallel perspective, and of course, even without going so much into the perspective issue, we've discovered that the first thing that happens is that the object which is seen, for instance, in a plane in 2D, has now to be converted so that it is visible as though it can be seen as though it's being seen from the computer, as opposed to being seen from just a two-dimensional space. I mean, in a way now, what we are doing is that we are doing some form of transforming that object, the way we did to this triangle, from this space, object space, and where eventually we get it into the camera view, real world view, in a way, so that now we can be able to produce what we call animated movies. And these computations happen are supported by OpenGL, and you have seen the functions which are involved. GL Matrix model, Flustrum. This Flustrum we have seen it can be replaced by GL Author, which can still be replaced by GLE perspective by using the field of view and the aspect ratio. We will need to appreciate the fact that at the end of it all, what we want to do is to convert that to 2D, from object space to world space, and eventually to the camera space. When it's at the camera space, it is the real world space, the virtual cinematography space. I hope you appreciate the fact that now the issue of camera models and camera control has everything to do with the virtual cameras with regard to computer graphics. Thank you.